Ritter's inevitable Firehouse 51 exit continues a frustrating Chicago Fire character trend that should stop. As many already know, Daniel Carey's Darren Ritter is leaving Chicago Fire ahead of the season 14 premiere, and his exit has continued a disappointing trend that needs to be broken. The NBC procedural drama has lost many cast members over the years. Some actors and actresses have left due to wanting to seek other projects, while others have been forced out for creative reasons. Unfortunately for Carey and Jake Lockett, who plays Sam Carver and is also leaving Chicago Fire, his departure can be attributed to budget cuts made by the network. Chicago Fire Season 14 is set to premiere in the fall of 2025, with new episodes airing at 9 p.m. ET, following Chicago Med Season 11 at 8 p.m. ET, and preceding Chicago PD Season 13 at 10 p.m. ET on NBC, per NBC Insider. In the past couple of seasons of Chicago Fire, the cast members have taken turns sitting out of episodes in an effort made by NBC to reduce costs. However, that apparently wasn't enough for the network. And now, Carey and Lockett are paying the price. Based on the events of the Chicago Fire Season 13 finale, it's evident that the producers weren't planning on writing out either Ritter or Carver. Nevertheless, they are leaving, and Carey's exit continues an unsettling pattern within the One Chicago series. Based on everything we know behind the scenes, Ritter's departure from the NBC procedural drama is unavoidable, even if the Season 13 finale didn't address his exit at all. He is leaving Firehouse 51 ahead of the Chicago Fire Season 14 premiere. The network won't suddenly reverse its decision, despite fan uproar, because it originates from a problem that NBC seemingly can't fix without getting rid of cast members. So just like that, Ritter is gone. Ritter was hardly in the Chicago Fire Season 13 finale, making many confused as to how and why he would leave the show. He had just moved in with Lizzie Novak and is now a single man. The world is his oyster, and yet NBC is snatching that away from Ritter and all the fans who love him and want to see him succeed. Viewers will likely learn more about Ritter's departure when Season 14 is released. However, since Carey is already gone, he won't be around to give his character's story a satisfying ending. The premiere will probably just explain Ritter's absence in an offhand comment, which is disappointing and disrespectful. Before it was announced that Ritter and Carver were leaving Chicago Fire after Season 13, Chief Wallace Bowden and Derek Gibson, two black men, were the last two characters to exit the series. Now, with Ritter's departure, 3 black characters have left Chicago Fire in the past 2 seasons. So, unless NBC announces any cast additions before Season 14 premieres, there are 0 black male actors in the main cast. Heck, there aren't any in the recurring cast, either. Going forward, the cast of Chicago Fire isn't looking as diverse as it once was, which is quite disconcerting, given the fact that it takes place in a very diverse city. It certainly doesn't help that 3 black men make up some of the most recent exits. Ritter's departure ultimately continues a trend that needs to stop, but given Chicago Fire's history, it's unlikely that the show will change its ways. Despite being a main character for 5 seasons and a recurring character for 2 seasons before that, Chicago Fire consistently overlooked and underutilized Ritter for the duration of his time on the series. He has always felt like a side character, only getting a couple of semi-important storylines here and there. Consequently, the One Chicago universe underappreciating Ritter hasn't gone unnoticed. It's a shame because, from what we saw of Ritter, he was undoubtedly one of Chicago Fire's best characters, and it's too late to give him his due. Now that he was one of the first options to boot from Firehouse 51 when budget cuts had to be made, It's clear that NBC has never recognized Ritter's value. It's a shame because, from what we saw of Ritter, he was undoubtedly one of Chicago Fire's best characters. Into the next chapters of Chicago Fire, it's hard not to feel a deep tug of melancholy over the trajectory of Darren Ritter's story. The young firefighter, played by Daniel Keary, quickly won over fans from the moment we first met him. His pure soul, his quiet confidence, and his loyalty made him a perfect fit for the tight-knit team at Firehouse 51. But now, as rumors swirl and storylines align toward his eventual exit, it highlights a frustrating trend within the show, a trend we've come to know all too well, a pattern of underdeveloped, underused, and underappreciated exits for some of its most promising and rich secondary characters. The rise and appeal of Ritter was not meant to be the center of the show when we first met him, and that's exactly what made him so charming. He fell into the team naturally, adding a fresh, somewhat vulnerable perspective to a group made up of veteran firefighters, chiefs, and lieutenants. His character represented the future of 51, the next generation of first responders who carry the department forward with compassion, a strong moral compass, and a deep sense of service. Some fans fell in love with Ritter for his quiet confidence, a young man battling doubts about himself while proving, day by day, that he belonged alongside the best in the CFT. His friendships were a huge part of his appeal. We saw him form a close bond with Gallo and Violet, adding a rich human layer to a team, often defined by dramatic emergencies and literal life-and-death scenarios. Why his departure feels frustrating. So when we hear the rumblings that Ritter might be the next to hang up his gear, it feels frustrating. Not because exits are abnormal on a show that frequently evolves its cast, but because this kind of departure highlights a pattern we've grown tired of seeing. All too often, side characters with deep potential are pushed aside or discarded just when their stories were blooming. Instead of letting their journeys come to a satisfying, rich conclusion, we watch them fade into the background or vanish altogether. This pattern signals a lack of imagination and patience from the writer's room. There were countless stories left to tell about Ritter, his future marriage plans, how he'd grow into a leadership role, or even how his struggles might affect him under pressure. Instead of honoring this potential, the show seems poised to cut him off just when we were beginning to appreciate all that his character could bring. The broader trend, why it needs to stop. Ritter's eventual exit underscores a frustrating trend for Chicago Fire, a pattern where secondary but well-loved players are treated as expendable, regardless of their popularity or potential. We've previously seen this with characters like Otis, Mills, and Kid's friend Foster, who were all gone just as their stories seemed to be deepening. It's a pattern that not only deprives fans of rich character development, but also weakens the show's ability to reflect the true, messy, interconnected nature of a working firehouse, a place made up of many different personalities, each adding their own unique thread to the fabric of the team. This practice, while sometimes necessary due to actor exits or narrative choices, starts to feel lazy when it happens repeatedly. It signals to the audience, don't get attached. Whatever character you connect with might disappear without much resolution. That approach undercuts dramatic stakes. Instead of feeling a deep, permanent bond with the team, we become distant, unwilling to invest in storylines we know may lead nowhere. Why Ritter deserves better Ritter is more than just a background character. To many fans, he's a representation of hope and renewal. His struggles to find confidence and a sense of belonging mirrored the journeys we all experience in a workplace or a community. His friendships, particularly his bond with Gallo and Violet, provided an anchor of stability and loyalty. His presence challenged veteran firefighters to reassess their roles and responsibilities. adding texture and depth to interpersonal relationships at 51. Allowing Ritter to quietly fade away feels dismissive of all this potential. It disregards not only his character arc, but also the dramatic possibilities that a young firefighter brings to a department rich with tradition and trauma. His future marriage, promotions, or eventual rise to leadership were all stories waiting to be told. Stories that could illuminate the future of 51 in a way we hadn't previously seen. Why it's time to end this trend.